What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So let's start with some baseball. A couple of small signings, and we had a big hiring in baseball. Angels signed Alek Manoah a year for $1.9 million. Manoah was the guy who burst onto the scene a few years ago in Toronto. He's kind of fallen off a cliff since. His rookie year was 2021. In 20 starts, he had a 3.2 year ERA, went 9-2. 2022 was an all-star. 16 and 7, 31 starts, 2.24 ERA, 196 2/3 innings, 180 strikeouts. Was finished third in the American League Cy Young voting. But for whatever reason, has fallen off since then. 2023 fell off a cliff. Made 19 starts, had an ERA close to 6, 5.87, 87 in the third innings that year. We spent time in the minor leagues. They sent him all the way back to rookie ball that year, and he got shelled in rookie ball against 17 and 18-year-olds. This is a guy who was 25 years old and was previously an all-star. Following year, 24, 2 years ago, start of the year in the minor leagues, gets called up pretty early on in the season, starts to kind of find himself at a 3.7 ERA in his first five starts. In 24 and a third, then it has Tommy John. Didn't pitch at all last year because of Tommy John, was eventually let go by Toronto when they activated Anthony Santander late in September. Atlanta picked him up. The president of baseball operations over there, Alex Anthopoulos, was once the GM of Toronto. I believe drafted him in Toronto years ago. They did not tender him a contract, and the Angels are picking him up. The Angels love picking up our team scraps. It never seems to work. But they're pretty soft for starting pitching. They kind of always are. He's still only going to be 27 years old. I mean, people, when I talk about him, it's like he's this like former, you know, ace who just got old, and he's now 35 years old and has nothing left. He's still 27 years old. Not sure if there's anything left to really recover. Not sure if he'll be able to, but wishing him well. He was electric when he first came up. Still 27 years old. He's getting what's probably his last chance with the Angels in Anaheim. I expect him to be part of the rotation opening day. Unless he has a really bad sprain, as long as he goes out there, has a solid sprain, he should be in their opening day rotation, and hopefully he can kind of pitch his way back into form. Well, speaking of the Blue Jays, they make a sign. They signed Cody Ponce, 3 years, $30 million. Ponce a few years ago was in Pittsburgh as a depth reliever. Didn't pitch very much. Was mainly in the minor leagues. Didn't pitch well in the major league roster. Over the last few years, became a starter in Korea and was fantastic. Was the Cy Young in Korea. Might have actually been the MVP. Was 17 and 1 with a sub 2 ERA last year in Korea. He's back in the majors with Toronto. So yeah, a lot of guys doing this. They were a higher-ish talented prospect. They come up, doesn't really work out. They say, you know what, let's go and take a large deal to pitch in their country. Kind of find themselves, and then eventually jump back into the major leagues. You see a lot of guys do that. We'll see what the Toronto does with Ponce because he started in Korea but was a reliever mainly when he was in the majors briefly with the Pirates. I think last pitch in 2021, very briefly out of their bullpen in Pittsburgh. That was 4 years ago at this point. Toronto's, they've stockpiled a lot of starting pitching. Of course, you have Kevin Goldman, Trey Savage, who had a great rookie year down the stretch last year. You brought back Shane Bieber. He opts into his option. You bring in Dylan Cease on a big deal. Now you got Cody Ponce. You have Jose Barrios, who was hurt in the stretch run this past season. He'll be healthy, assuming he doesn't get moved. So I don't think he will. So you wonder, will Ponce start? Will he be, in the bullpen? If so, what will his role be at the bullpen? Will he be a middle reliever? Will he be a swingman? Could he potentially get some closing opportunities? How confident do I feel in Jeff Hoffman? So still a lot of questions, but Toronto clearly is being aggressive. Obviously Shane Bieber still tried to stay for another year. They go out and drop 210 million on Dylan Cease, and now you go out and bring in Cody Ponce. So he's now like Toronto Blue Jay. And similar to him, another former major leaguer who didn't work out, who then went overseas and is now coming back. Anthony Kay has signed like 2 year, $12 million deal with the White Sox. So Anthony Kay came in with the Mets, was drafted by the Mets, was a top pitching prospect. Eventually gets traded to Toronto in the Marcus Stroman trade when Stroman went from Toronto to the Mets. I think that was in like 2021, maybe. He eventually comes up for Toronto, was not very good, kind of flamed out. and then eventually goes overseas and has pitched well overseas. And now he's back in the majors with the White Sox. White obviously are very bad. You have a couple of young starters there. You're still evaluating like Randy Vasquez. You got him in the who was it? I think it might have been was it the Cease trade when they sent Cease to San Diego. I believe it was that he was actually queuing with the Yankees, and they traded him for Soto, and then they sort of flipped him for Cease. You have that kid else named Jonathan Cannon who pitched pretty well last year. So you have a couple of young arms. Maybe add Anthony Kane to the mix. He's still not old by any means. Still some prime years left. Only making $6 million a year, and I expect him to be a part of the rotation come opening day. And last bit of baseball, the Colorado Rockies have hired Dodgers executive Josh Burns to be their general manager. He will serve under new president of baseball operations, Paul DePodesta. I think this is a good hire by the Colorado Rockies. Don't say that often, but I think this is a good move. When it comes to DePodesta, he's obviously, very big into analytics, obviously. You know the whole thing of A's and his A's tenure and the Moneyball approach, obviously. I don't really think that's a way to build a baseball team in 2025. But Burns, coming from the Dodgers, a guy who, much more modern approach, willing, also comes from a team that's very aggressive with spending money. It could be a good kind of, opposite track, good kind of best of both worlds kind of thing. So I think that could work out. I think it's a good hire by the Colorado Rockies. Got some basketball news. Chris Paul has been cut by the Los Angeles Clippers. So Chris Paul obviously has been playing for a long time. Point guard. Spent probably his going to be most well known as a Clipper when he retires after the season. Was with the Clippers for a very long time in the mid 2010s. Was very good. Was a perennial All-Star, All-NBA caliber player. Probably is going to the Hall of Fame. He's now 40 years old, something like that. He announced a few weeks ago this is going to be his last season in the NBA. He's bounced around the league for a while now. He was in Houston, Oklahoma City, and Golden State. Last year he was in San Antonio. And he went back to the Clippers this year where it kind of all started. Off his starter's career with the Hornets, but then he gets traded to the Clippers. That's where he spent his best years. So it looks like he's going to spend his last year with the Clippers. Obviously not the same player anymore. He's just a second string player. Really just there kind of through his leadership and commitment for some of the younger players. Granted, the Clippers are all very old teams, not a whole lot of young talent on that team. Apparently, he was very critical of a lot of the players on the team and the front office, and Clippers didn't like that. And apparently, he wanted to meet with head coach Ty Lue to try and uh, clear the air. That apparently he was getting a rap that he was like this negative presence, but Ty Lue refused to meet with him, and the front office said, "You've been cut." Apparently, he posted on Instagram that they sent him home, and then he posted on his social media, and then the Clippers announced that he had been released. Look, I'm not a Chris Paul fan, not in the slightest. I think he's an overrated player over all time. He's had a great career, probably a Hall of Famer, but I do think he's a bit overrated. I was always so unlucky. I get, he would have been paid off Kobe Bryant in that trade that the league shouldn't have blocked. He ended up going to the other LA team in the Clippers, but he had years with the Clippers with a good team, never could get it done. He got hurt in the conference finals with Houston when they would have beaten Golden State if he was healthy, in my opinion. Goes to Oklahoma City and again played very well for them, but didn't get out of the first round. He had a chance with Phoenix, played great for them, helped get them to the finals, but did not perform well in the finals. Blew it too early to Milwaukee Bucks, and he just bounced around from team to team to team since then. He had that year in Golden State. The year in San Antonio, I thought he had a good year last year, as like kind of the number two point guard. Was a good mentor to a lot of those younger players, whether it was Wembanyama. They eventually bring in De'Aaron Fox last year. Now he's back at the Clippers where it all started, again, as a bench piece, just a mentor. The Clippers, they're a complete disaster. One of the worst teams in basketball. They don't have a first round pick. They have a top five pick. The Thunder might win another championship. They're 21-1. Thunder might win another championship and have the first pick in the draft. They're an absolute disaster. Their team is old. Everyone tried to hype up. They signed all these guys. They brought back Chris Paul. They brought in Bradley Beal and all these dudes. It's like Kawhi's old, can't stay on the court. Who else is over there? Zubac is older. You brought in Chris Paul and a swan song. Bradley Beal, who was horrible in Phoenix. He's old. You brought in him after he got bought out by Phoenix. He's out for the year. They are an absolute disaster. Blow it up. Enough. And Tyler was a completely overrated coach, very overpaid. The contract he signed was ridiculous a year or two ago. Blow the whole thing up. Trade everyone. Try and get something for Kawhi. I would get something for Harden. He is playing very well, but we all know he shuts down the postseason. He's old. Get something for James Harden. Get something for Kawhi. You Zubac, Sia. Uh, Let go of Lou. Start over. Okay, start over. You missed your window by a country mile. Trading Shy and 5 first-round picks for Paul George. That's probably the worst trade ever. The only trade that even sniffs is the Luka trade. Those are the two worst trades in the history of the NBA. Just I don't know what the Clippers are doing. Yeah, not a Chris Paul guy, but you brought him in to be, a leader and, kind of be like almost like another assistant coach and be like that, that veteran voice. And seemed like he was, being the criticism seemed warranted. I mean, teams what, 5-16? Like with all these veterans like James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Nikola Zubac on the team, like this is not talented by any means, but they should at least be a playoff or a playing team. They shouldn't be, bottom five team in basketball, and get rid of him on his swan song. He's a franchise legend. At the very least, either talk this out, come to terms on something, or just be like, you know what, we're out of it. Trade Kawhi, trade Harden, and ask Chris Paul, do you want to stay? For your last season. If you want to stay here, we'll keep you. But just so you know, we are going to gut the roster. It's probably going to be ugly down the stretch. We're not going to win a lot of games. But if you want, we'll trade you to a contender so you can get a championship ranking, or if he doesn't have a ring yet. Don't just cut him. He's a franchise legend at the end of the day. That's the truth. We'll see if somebody picks him up. It'd be cool if he can maybe go to a contender, try and pick up a ring before he retires. Could Oklahoma City bring him back? Maybe he's a bench piece. They got a lot of younger players over there. Could that be an option? A lot of people think the Lakers might do it. He's close friends with LeBron. I don't think he's gonna win a championship there by any means, but on his swan song, maybe he wants to hang out with his buddy. I'm sure LeBron would love that. But Chris Paul has been let go by the Los Angeles Clippers. But moving on, couple college football hires. The cycle continues to swirl. Uh, South Florida has hired Brian Hartline, the Ohio State offensive coordinator, as their head coach. I think this is a great hire for South Florida. Of course, their coach, Alex Golesh, just left to take the Auburn job. Hartline has done a very good job this year as the play caller of Ohio State. He's maybe the best wide receiver developer and recruiter in the entire country. So all the wide receiver talent Ohio State has had over the last few years, from Jackson Smith and the Jigba to Cardell Tate and Jeremiah Smith right now. Cardell Tate, I expect him to be the first receiver off the board this year, could be a top 5 pick. Jeremiah Smith might be the first pick in the entire draft next year. Definitely the best player in that class. That's my expectation. I think it's a great hire for South Florida. Get a really bright offensive mind. Of course, he played in the NFL for a while. Was a solid receiver for them at Miami Dolphins. Then Cleveland Brown was a very good NFL player. And he's now he goes to Ohio State that does the work that he's done there. And because of his ties with Ohio State, could he grab a couple players from Ohio State and bring them to South Florida, who's of course a Group of 5 school? Could he flip somebody from from Ohio State or a school like that to South Florida, especially wide receivers? Very good hire for USF. And the Ryan Hartline, you get a head coach position, not at a place like Ohio State where you're gonna be under pressure to win that championship right away. Just go out there, try and win 9 or 10 games, see if you can stick around in the group. In the group, be one of the best group of 5 teams. Give yourself a chance to maybe be your group of 5 representative in the college football playoff. If in a couple of years, a Power 4 team will probably make you a big offer to be their head coach. So I think for both parties, it's an excellent decision on both parties. Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman has announced that he is retiring. Looks like he is going to retire. He's been there since 2019 for the last 7 seasons. They've done a very good job there. 54-34, 10 wins in the Big 12 title 3 years ago in 2022. Before that, he was with North Dakota State, an FCS program, for 5 seasons. Had a historic run there, 69-6 for FCS. national championships. He was Carson Wentz's college coach, but he's like he's going to retire. Colin Klein, who's the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M, looks like he'll be the next head coach. He was the offensive coordinator slash quarterbacks coach until about 2 years ago when he took the OC job at Texas A&M to Mike Elko picked to be his offensive coordinator. He also played quarterback at Kansas State from 2009 to 2012. Looks like he'll be the next head coach. I think that's a good choice. Obviously knows the program, played there, coached there. He's done a good job as an OC in both spots. I think that's a good choice. But Kansas State head coach Chris Beam looks like he is retiring. With that, let's talk about the college football rankings. A lot of people were irked by it, myself included. This is the top 25. James Madison's at 25. JMU, North Texas 24th. Both of teams are 11-1. Iowa is 23rd at 8-4. Georgia Tech is 22nd at 9-3. Houston at 9-3 is 21st. You have Tulane is 20th at 10-2. Couple 9-3 teams. Michigan at 19th, Arizona at 18th, Virginia is at 17th, 10-2. Of course, they're in the ACC title game. USC is 16th at 9-3. Utah is 15th at 10-2. Vanderbilt is 10-2. They're at 14th. Texas 13th at 9-3. Miami is 12th at 10-2. BYU is 11th. They're 11-1. Notre Dame is 10th at 10-2. Alabama is 9th at 10-2. Oklahoma's 8th, also 10-2. Then we have all these one-loss teams. A&M drops to 7th, so they lose to Texas. Ole Miss is 6th. Oregon 5th. Tech up to 4th. Georgia 3rd, and of course the two undefeated teams. Indiana at 2nd. Ohio State 1st. Both those teams are in a Big Ten championship game. A couple of things here. I really think Vanderbilt should be in. I think they are better than a couple of teams on this list. I would have had them probably. I might have even had them over Notre Dame. Uh, I don't think Miami's a playoff team, but they beat Notre Dame. I don't head-to-head in everything. I do think Notre Dame, you can make a case, has a better case for the playoff than Miami. But, like, head has to mean something, and apparently it doesn't. Look, this is a difficult situation, because, like, what do you do with BYU? The only loss was to Texas Tech, who's ranked fourth in the country. They might steal a bit if Texas Tech loses. What do you do with them? You think you still have to have them in if they're, even if they lose the Big 12 title game to BYU. Obviously Notre Dame's complicated because they don't have a conference. You didn't really beat anybody. But Vanderbilt, I think they should be in. In Texas is an even more complicated one. You do lose to Florida, who sucks. But Ohio State, if you keep them up because they lost to Ohio State, you're not going to see teams schedule those out of conference games early in the season that we all love. Like that week 1 game was great between Texas and Ohio State. If I'm Texas, I'm like, so let me get this straight. We were ranked first in the country to open the season for the first time in God knows how long. You finally make the playoffs last year, and our first game we scheduled here is an out-of-conference game against the best, not the best team in the country technically they were, but the defending champs with the best roster in college football in Ohio State, maybe the best overall program in all of college football, on the road, it may be the toughest place to play in all of college football. In Arch Manning's first ever start as the full-time starter going into a season. Coming in, he was the Heisman favorite. Like, are you kidding me? They lose by a score. It was a pretty close game. They lost, and they played terrible still. They didn't lose by that many points. And you're gonna boot us because we lost to them, and then we lost 2 conference games. Fun fact is I'm a little bit pissed off about that. I'm not gonna lie. And they beat Oklahoma, who's ranked 8th in the country. They beat them in the Red River robbery. They beat Alabama, who right now was ranked 9th. They're in the SEC championship game. Right now is ranked ahead of them. So, like, it's complicated. I really don't think they should be in, to be honest. They also almost lost to Kentucky, who sucked this year. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think they're going to schedule a team like Ohio State ever again. Like, until you get to late in the season where they have to have the out-of-conference games, obviously. Teams like Texas are not going to schedule a team like Ohio State. It's just not going to happen. And that's why us college football fans love college football, college football gets underway, and the first game is Ohio State and Texas. Top two teams in the country. Sign me up. But now we're probably not going to see that because why would a team do that? So this college football is completely broken between the calendar and this. It's completely broken. This is what the bracket looks like. Ohio State is one, Indiana two, Georgia three, Texas Tech four. They get the four byes. Number five, Oregon would host the top group of five team, which right now will be Tulane, assuming they win the American Championship, which they probably will. Ole Miss right now is sixth. People are bitching about them because they're saying, well, Florida State got left out of the 14 playoff a few years ago because their quarterback got injured. We should leave them out for not having much of a coaching staff because Lane Kiffin took them over from to LSU. So we'll see how that plays out. A&M is seventh. They would play Notre Dame, by the way. Ole Miss would play Virginia if they won the ACC. If not, things get a little messy, and we're going to get to that in a little bit here. A&M would play Notre Dame. Oklahoma would play Alabama. So that's what it looks like right now. So for teams that are locks, Ohio State's a lock. Indiana, those two teams should have byes regardless of who wins that game. Georgia's got, I think, has got to be a lock. If you only losses are for Alabama, who wins the SEC, I think you got to have them in. I really think Texas Tech should be in, even if they lose to BYU. I don't think they will, but I do think Texas Tech should be in either way. They're very good. Oregon will be in. A&M's going to be in. He had a great year. I know they are frauds. I don't expect them to do a whole lot in the college football playoff. I know them could honestly beat them in a first round matchup if that ends up happening. But your only loss was to Texas, who's a very good team. You got to have them in, even though their SEC schedule wasn't very hard. Oklahoma, I think should be in. Notre Dame's a tough one. That's where it gets dicey. If Alabama loses, they won't be out. They're like, all right, who takes their place? I think it should be Vanderbilt, but you also have Miami, you have Texas. Is Utah in consideration? Even BYU. Obviously, if they win, they'll steal a bid because they'll win the Big 12. They'll get an automatic bid somewhere. So things are getting dicey with the college football playoff. With that, let's do game picks for college football conference championship weekend. This game doesn't really matter, but do want to shout out the Conference USA championship. It's Friday at 7. I'm going to take Kansas State. I think they're just a slightly better team. And then at 8 o'clock on Friday, we have UNLV against Boise State in the Mountain West Championship. UNLV has a tiny chance to maybe sneak in if Virginia loses and JMU loses, but that's very unlikely. Both those happen. They're playing Boise State. They're on the road. Boise State by 4, but I do think UNLV will win the game. Two other games on Friday. We have the Sun Belt Championship on Friday. It is Troy against JMU. I think JMU wins. Uh, for sure. They are the juggernaut over there in the Sun Belt. They're 11-1. They're much better than Troy. Even though their coach Bob Chesney, he did accept the head coach job. I think at UCLA, but he's going to coach in the rest of the season. I think JMU will pick up the win. And then 8 is North Texas against number 24 Tulane in the AAC championship. This is a big game. The winner of this will be a group of 5 team in the college football playoff. And if Virginia loses, both could get in to and North Texas, possibly. If assuming JMU wins, they'll probably would be the second group of 5 teams to get in. But I'm gonna take Tulane. North Texas is favored by 2.5, but I'm going to take Tulane. I think they're going to win this game. I think Tulane will win this game. John Sumrall knows he's leaving for Florida after the year. They got nothing to lose. I think Tulane. I mean, North Texas just lost their coach too, but they just brought in the coach. But by the way, Neil Brown from a former West Virginia coach is now going to be their coach. So I'm going to take Tulane in that game. Saturday at noon, the Big 12 championship. Number 11 BYU against number 5 Texas Tech. I'm going to take Texas Tech. Beating a team twice in one season, especially in college football, is very hard to do. BYU's coach has announced that he signed a big extension there. He's not going to leave for Penn State. That's great news for BYU. They're 11-1. These are two good teams. It's that AT&T Stadium. That should be great. Tech is favored by 12.5. I think Tech will win the game. They blew BYU out the first time. I think there's a far superior team. They're great defensively. I think Texas Tech will win that game. And then, again, this game doesn't matter, but shout out to Mac. Western Michigan against Miami, Ohio. I will take Western Michigan in that game. But then the big ones. 4 o'clock. SEC Championship at Mercedes-Benz where the Falcons play. Number 4, Georgia against number 10, Alabama. Georgia, Bama. Doesn't get better than that. I'm going to take Georgia. Alabama kind of has their number, has for a few years now, but I'm going to take Georgia. Alabama won earlier in the year. It's very hard to beat a team twice in a row. It's one thing when it's Tech and BYU, in, Big 12. Tech is kind of the cream of the crop this year. In the SEC, these are two top teams. Georgia's home. I think Georgia wins this game and will knock Alabama out of the playoff. 8 o'clock. Big 10 championship game. Number 2 Indiana against number 1 Ohio State, the top 2 teams in the country, both undefeated. At Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Indianapolis Colts play. It's in Indiana. I am going to take Ohio State. I do think this will be a close game. Love what Indiana's done. Kirk Cignetti, just historically great what he's done over the last 2 years. I just don't think anybody can beat Ohio State. They're just too good. I think Indiana gives them a run for their money. I'm rooting for Indiana, but I think Ohio State will win the game. And the ACC championship is on at 8 o'clock. I don't know why they always do the ACC championship last and not the SEC one, but that's besides the point. Duke against number 18 Virginia. Duke is 7-5. They lost three out of conference games to UConn, Illinois, and somebody else. I can't remember who. I'm going to take Duke to win. I'm taking Duke. They're at home. There's a good team, but not a great team. Their quarterback, Mensah's had a very good year, over 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns against 4 interceptions. They're very good offensively. Virginia State by 3.5. I think Duke wins and causes all sorts of chaos in the college football playoff, which probably leads to the ACC not having a spot. I think Duke beats Virginia. NFL game picks, week 14, Thursday Night Football tomorrow. Cowboys and Lions. I'm going to take the Lions. Cowboys are playing very well. 3-0. Defense looks a little bit better. I'm going to take Detroit. They're coming off a tough loss on Thanksgiving to Green Bay. And they got all sorts of issues. They have a tough matchup with Quinnen Williams. Who's been really good since Dallas got him from the Jets. The interior O-line is very bad. But defense isn't great. In a high-scoring game, I'll take Detroit at home to sneak away. Sunday, 1 o'clock slate. The teams on bye this week are the Patriots, Giants, Niners, and Panthers. Should be the last bye week of the year. Seahawks and Falcons. I'm going to take Seattle. Atlanta absolutely sucks. I got Falcons fans screaming for them to fire Raheem Morris. I think that will end up happening. Seattle's a great team, one of the best teams in the NFL. They're 9-3. They've been a great road team all year. They're 5-1 on the road. Sam Darnold playing really well. Give me the Seattle Seahawks. JSN, I'm sure will have another great game. Bengals and Bills. This is a great game. Should be a really good game. Rematch of the 8th divisional round from a couple of years ago. Bengals 4-8. They're going to have to win out if they want any chance of getting to the playoffs and still win the AFC North. Bills 8-4. We're going to be the last team in. I'm going to take the Bengals in an upset. I'm going to take them. Not sold on the Bills. The offense looked great, obviously, with Joe Burrow last week against Baltimore. I think Joe Burrow should play well again. Bills' pass rush isn't anything special. They're both for tackles. Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown did not play last week against Pittsburgh. I'm not sure if they'll play this week, so that's something to keep an eye on. I know they're at home, and the Bengals defense is really bad. Maybe the worst in the league, but they forced 5 turnovers against Baltimore last week. Can't imagine they'll be able to do the same with Josh Allen and the Bills. But I'm gonna take the Bengals in an upset. I think they could win out and steal the AFC North. I do not believe in the Bills. Titans Browns. Yikes! It's a disgusting game. Deshaun Watson was just his practice window was just open to return. I don't understand why that is. Titans, Browns. Yikes. I'm going to take the Browns. They're at home. I was thinking of taking the Titans. It's two very bad teams that probably should both better off lose. You know, I don't touch the door. I don't touch Cam Ward, especially against a very good Browns defense, especially in that secondary. But Myles Garrett's going to eat Cam Ward alive. He's going for the sack record. Nothing else to play for at this point. His Richard Judkins to have a pretty productive day. And just the Titans, this point, lose out and get the first pick at this point. Just at this point, you're 1-11. Give me the the Browns. In just a game that I don't know why you watch that game. If you're a Browns and Titan fan, I'm so sorry. Like, still should watch that game. Commanders and Vikings. I'm gonna take the Commanders. I do not trust J.J. McCarthy. Marcus Mariota actually played well last week against an elite Denver defense. I know they have a ton of injuries, but Terry McLaurin is back. J.J. McCarthy is the worst quarterback in the NFL. He's going to play after his concussion or not concussion that they made up. Who knows what's going on? But I'm going to take the Washington Commanders in that game. Vikings they're just lost. They're frustrated. Dolphins and Jets. Another damn the NFL. Too early in the year. Good God. Dolphins and Jets. I'm going to take the Dolphins. They've actually played better over the last few weeks. Two always killed the Jets. But their defense isn't very good. The Jets, they have a little bit better of a shot with Tyrod Taylor than they do with Justin Fields. Close game. I mean, I think Miami wins and sweeps the Jets. Saints and Bucks. I'm gonna take the Bucks. They're at home. Saints are very bad. Mike Evans was potentially coming back soon. Don't think he'll play this week, but it's possible. He's ahead of schedule for that major shoulder injury that he has. But 7-5, trying to hold up the Carolina Panthers in the NFC South. They do that for now. I think they beat the Saints, who are very, very bad. Now, Colts and Jaguars, big game in the NFC South. Both are 8-4. Jacksonville, right now, is considered in first place. Colts have been struggling. I know Daniel Jones has that leg injury that's been hampering him in recent weeks. It's in Jacksonville. I'm going to take the Jags. I know Trevor Lawrence is not that guy. I've said it before on the show. Said it off camera as well. He's very inconsistent. But Brian Thomas is back. Jacoby Myers has found his place with Jacksonville. Jones is playing through a very, very major injury. Jonathan Taylor has cooled off these last couple of games. So no Sauce Gardner in this game. He's going to miss the next couple of games for Indianapolis. I think Jacksonville is going to win this game. I think there's a chance they could steal the AFC South. The AFC South is wild. Steelers, Ravens. I'm taking the Ravens. Don't trust either team. I don't think either team is very good. In fact, I think the Bengals might still win the division. I've said that already. Pittsburgh, everyone's clamoring for them to move on from Mike Tomlin. The running game is picked up with Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren, but Aaron Rodgers is just turned 42. He's playing hurt. The defense isn't very good. I think Lamar bounces back and plays a little bit better. And they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. 405, Broncos, Raiders. Give me the Broncos. They're going to eat Geno Smith alive. The Raiders are an utterly horrid team. Pete Carroll's going to get fired. Give me the Broncos so they get another easy opponent. Bears, Packers. Storied rivalry. Maybe the best rivalry in all of football. Huge game. It's at Lambeau. Bears around 9-3, first seed in the NFC. Green Bay's 8-3-1. I'm going to take the Packers. They've had a couple of bad home losses this year. You lose to Carolina. You lost to Cleveland at home as well. You lost to Philly, who's a very good team, but that was a really tough loss. Game that you could have won. The Bears, you're 9-3, you're playing well, but you're barely getting by these teams. Caleb isn't playing well. I think Micah Parsons will get some pressure on Caleb Williams. I think Green Bay comes away with the win. 425, Rams and Cardinals. Given the Rams, I think they bounce back. Stafford will help for 3 turnovers again. I still think he's the MVP of the league. That's an excellent team. Still think they're the best team in football. Stafford over 3,000 passing yards, 32 touchdowns against 4 interceptions. Kyron's very good. They can run the ball. Puka Nacua and Devontae together have been dogs. The defense is good. Arizona. The Sets play very well, but I know Marvin Harrison's back, but they can't run the ball. They can't stop anybody. They're 3-9. Also, they're only 1-5 at home this year. So give me the Rams to bounce back and win that game. I think they cover at the 8.5. Huge game on Sunday Night Football. Texans and Chiefs at Arrowhead. Chiefs are gonna have to win at least what do they have? 5 games left. They're gonna have to win at least 4 of their final 5 if they want to make the playoffs. Probably have to win out. Houston's been playing really well. They've won 7 of their last 9. I think have the best defense in the NFL. This is a really tough game to pick, but I'm going to take the Chiefs. Not super confident about that. I like how Houston is playing. They've been surprising me week after week. They surprised me against Buffalo, surprised me even against Indianapolis. Probably shouldn't keep betting against them. But the Chiefs, they've been a very good team at home. On the road, they've been brutal. Obviously, in one-score games, they've been very bad. This seems like a game that should be close. But, what works against the Chiefs' favor, the Chiefs aren't very good at stopping the run. The Texans aren't a great running team, with your top back being Woody Parks. This should be a lower-scoring game. I trust Mahomes to pull this one out for Kansas City. I think he pulls it out. I think the Chiefs will win this game at home. Monday Night Football, Eagles and Chargers. I'm going to take the Eagles. That offense has been horrid. Sirianni's a joke. The offensive play call between him and Pembatulo has just been god-awful. But Chargers, their team is depleted. Herbert might not even play in this game. He had that hand surgery, but he might be able to play through it. They have no offensive line. Looking at Almeri and Hampton back will definitely help, but Philly's very tough against the run. They get gutted by the Bears last week. I don't think they'll be as bad. Almeri and Hampton hasn't played in like 2 months. Their defense is beat up. I think it's a good matchup for Philadelphia Eagles. Chargers, they're at home, but it doesn't really matter. Their fans are kind of non-existent. I think the Eagles will pick up this win and continue to hold off the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.